God. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it. We have made it to this fucking disaster. Fant4stic. And yes, I'm going to keep calling this movie Fant4stic because that's how they marketed the film. Like the 4 looked like an A, so what is Fant4stic all about? Well, transported to an alternate universe, 4 young outsiders gain superhuman powers as they alter their physical form in shocking ways. Reed Richards becomes Mr. Fantastic, able to stretch and twist his body at will, while his pal Ben Grimm gains immense strength as the Thing. Johnny Storm becomes the Human Torch, able to control and project fire, while his sister Sue becomes the Invisible Woman. Together, the team must harness their new abilities to prevent Doctor Doom from destroying Earth. Oh my god, this movie is one of the worst films, one of the worst superhero movies of all time. Fant4stic is right up there with Batman Forever. Well, not Batman Forever. Batman, more like Batman and Robin, Catwoman, Steel, Howard the Duck, Elektra. It's so bad. Like, alright, it's actually, I would put it up there with I would actually put this up there with Elektra. Like, both Elektra and Fant4stic, they feel very serious and dull, gloomy movies. Like Catwoman, Steel, Batman and Robin, Jesus. Those movies are so awful, but they're very goofy. They're awful in a goofy and funny way. I don't care what you think about those movies. Those movies are dog shit. So, speaking of shit, I have listed a shitload of notes. I have taken a shitload of notes here on my laptop, and we're going to go through all of them. We're going to go through every single detail. So strap in, grab a snack, grab something to drink, and sit back and listen to my amazing voice and this amazing review. So, why is this? So you might be asked. So if you've never seen this movie, first of all, you're doing yourself a huge favor. So yeah, why is this movie not fantastic? So, similar to another Marvel movie, The Amazing Spider-Man, which stars Andrew. I almost said Andrew Jackson. I don't know why I wanted to say Andrew Jackson. No, Andrew Garfield. From Sony. The main problem with this movie is the fact that it was made so that Fox could keep the Fantastic Four film rights. That's right. You heard me. Just like how they did with the X-Men and Fantastic Four film rights, and not to lose the rights to Marvel Studios. And it shows. Ironically, which is ironic because Fox had an acquisition by Disney, which resulted in Marvel regaining the rights to the Fantastic Four franchise anyway. However, unlike The Amazing Spider-Man, with the first Andrew Garfield movie, this movie lacks any identity, personality, and quality in terms of writing, directing, and acting. I mean, this movie is directed by Josh Trank, who also directed Chronicle, which also starred Michael B. Jordan, a movie that I rented and I saw, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I really liked Chronicle. It's like a found footage. It also starred, I remember, Dane DeHaan too. And he has this abusive father in that movie. But yeah. But moving on. This movie went through production hell. Everyone who worked on this film has described the production and working on this film extremely disastrous. And there were a lot of testimonies from, from like executive interventions. Like, there's a lot of conflict. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of conflict between the studio and the director of this film. Fox hired 20th Century Fox hired Josh Trank only because of his fame of the film Chronicle. That's it. They also pushed to produce the film to compete against the MCU. Like that'll ever happen. Furthermore, Fox also almost completely scraped I keep mispronouncing that word. Scraped the original script that Trank and Simon Kinberg and Jeremy Slater have written because they deemed it too expensive to produce. Ironically, Fox ended up spending more than what they aimed for. They aimed for at least $100 million, but they ended up spending more than $150 million. And Josh Trank wanted to make like a body horror, quote unquote, style movie. But Fox decided to modify it without his permission. They did this without his permission, ladies and gentlemen. Studio interference. This causes the movie to be dark and family friendly at the same time, which does not work at all. Like when it comes to movies, you're either a dark and gloomy movie like The Batman, or you have something colorful or bright and colorful like the Spider-Man movies or like any of the MCU films. It's like one or another. You can't have like in the shows too. And speaking of studio interference, a similar thing happened with Sony and Sam Raimi. Now say what you want about the movie Spider-Man 3. I'm blanking on the name. Say what you want about Spider-Man 3. But so Sam Raimi directed Spider-Man 3. We all know Spider-Man 3, the infamous Spider-Man 3. That movie, let's just say Sam Raimi did not want certain characters to appear in that film. But Sony was like, this is our movie that we're producing and that you're directing. This is our movie, not yours. You are going to put these characters in our film. And we got Spider-Man. And the end result was Spider-Man 3. So yeah, I believe he didn't want... so if you want me to be specific, I believe Sam Raimi did not want both Venom and Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3. I believe that was it. I heard if the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, if Spider-Man 3 was very successful, just like the two predecessors, then we would have gotten Spider-Man 4. Maybe Carnage, maybe Black Cat. I mean, they're doing like a different version of Black Cat. Black Cat is going to be a version of like the Vulture. So it's like the Vultress, and also Mysterio, Bruce Campbell's character, who keeps popping up in all these Sam Raimi's movies, was going to be playing Mysterio. So there was like some like sketches and art that was released of what it was Spider-Man 4, the opening of Spider-Man 4 would have been. But yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the characters. The characters are incredibly unlikable and dumb, including the smartest man in of the Marvel Universe, Reed Richards. Dr. Doom is a terrible villain who doesn't act like what he does in the comics. Rather, he acts more like an elementary school bully. I mean, that is what it is. That's exactly what he is. Ugh. Meanwhile, the Doctor Doom in the Tim Story two Fantastic Four movies, that Doctor Doom was more like a genius, evil billionaire who only cared about money and his company. That's it. His presence as the main villain happens very late in the film, and his only powers, they changed his powers to like, he can fight people, and he also has telekinesis. His development as a villain was completely rushed within 2 minutes before he goes on a murderous rampage. And this movie also takes itself far too seriously and is very dark, which is a far cry from the comics. I know, like, Josh Trank wanted like a body, like a horror movie. I don't know why they would have. No offense to Josh Trank, but they should have picked a different director, a director who saw the Fantastic Four for who they are in the comics. I think so too. I remember Josh Trank before the movie came out. I will never forget this. He posted. Remember, he tweeted this tweet that said that he had a vision. Basically, he said that, oh, I have a vision of this movie. I guess we're never going to see it coming true. That's a basic. That's something like that he said. And then when I read that, I was like, "Oh, this movie is gonna be. Oh God, it is. It is." The movie is a poor grasp towards its source material. And also another thing, most of the film is just boring conversations in rooms with the lights turned off. Some of the dialogue is laughable and somewhat boringly dull. It has this, and also it has a weird color palette. It's like washed out and dull, nothing like it was like the comic books. Hmm. The climax. What else do I want to see? Oh yeah, the climax of the movie is it's like a cookie cutter beam into the sky that creates a portal fight scene. How many have we seen that in other superhero movies or action movies? Huh? In other, famous franchises, not just Marvel, DC. There's like a big portal in the sky. I will say the I don't this movie came out in 2015, and at the time special effects and CGI were, improving by the second, by the minute. You know, modern technology has improved. So the CGI and the special effects on the Human Torch should have been better, and it's not. It's awful. The special effects on Human Torch, Chris Evans in the two Fantastic Four movies look way better than the Human Torch here, like the fire effects. There's also abysmal editing with shots either going slow or cutting out and moving on to the next shot. There's also horrible and unenthusiastic acting and bad casting choices. Even from like amazing actors like Miles Teller, Toby Kebbell, and Michael B. Jordan. It has no real direction. Uh, Let me fix my microphone, my headphones for a sec. I feel like, I have no issues with them casting Michael B. Jordan as as Johnny Storm. I know he was, I know there's always going to be criticisms and backlash everywhere, everywhere. There's no escaping from it. I'm not okay. I'm okay with them changing a race, or I just want great characters. That's all I care about. These are not great characters. These are great actors, but they're not great characters. The characters that they're playing are not fully compelling, relatable, convincing. I just don't care about any of them. Miles Teller as Reed Richards, he doesn't even look like. I guess this movie is inspired by the Ultimate Fantastic Four in the comics, the Ultimate Marvel version, rather than the original 616, main storyline. But he looks and sounds like a teenager. Unlike the past two Fantastic Four movies, they were really bad and cheesy and corny. But those those two films with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, those the main four characters, they have chemistry with each other, a bond that unites them. Here, no chemistry between this version of the Fantastic Four. It's like a bunch of teenagers, a bunch of like misfits teenagers all like grouped up together. They have no chemistry. There's no bond that unites them. There's not even a friendship. In one scene, I'll give you an example. In one scene, when Sue and Johnny Storm do talk to each other, it's just relatively brief. Another example is in a scene when Reed, Richards, and Sue, who are a couple in the comics, sit down and talk. It's not even convincing. The only moment where there is any real chemistry between the four is a Chinese lunch scene. However, even they're not talking to each other. It still has one of the main problems from the Tim Story 2 films, which is that these characters are stuck on Earth too much and not in cosmic adventures like in the comics. These characters got their powers in a cosmic storm doing a trip in outer space, so they wouldn't just hang around on Earth as they do in the movies. There's also some shameless product placement with Dr. Pepsi, Dell, and Samsung. Terrible attempts to make the film dark and mature, which only makes it even dull and completely soulless. This is the Fantastic Four, Marvel's first family. That's what Stan Lee said. And that's something I believe in. These are humorous, funny, bright and colorful characters, not dark and gloomy. Like, this is not the Fantastic Four are not Batman. This is an issue I had. One of the main issues I had with the first Andrew Garfield, the Amazing Spider-Man movie, is that in that movie, they try so hard to copy the Dark Knight's success. Like, a lot of that movie is shot at night. Spider-Man is not a dark character, literally and figuratively. He's not a dark character. He's a bright and colorful character, which is why the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire movies, those were shot during the daytime. Spider-Man is not Batman. The same thing here. Fantastic Four are not Batman. But here, they're just moody and gloomy. It looks like gothic and emo. What is going on? This movie only has one real action scene, with the Fantastic Four face off against Doctor Doom near the end of the movie, which is absolutely unacceptable for any superhero or action movie. And to make it worse, three more scenes were reportedly planned for the movie, but were cut out. Listen to this. They were cut out days before production began. Why the heck they were not out is unknown. Though it is possible they wanted to make the film more family friendly. Regardless, it's still unacceptable for a superhero or any action movie. Since this is a PG-13 film, the storyline suffers from unbelievably bad pacing, lots of padding, and certain scenes that drag on. The main characters receive their powers within the first 40 minutes, and the first act progresses so slowly overall, taking up a huge chunk of the movie's runtime, that the final act ends up moving at an incredibly fast pace. You start off slow, and then you just speed through, and then that's it. Credits roll. And there's also some false advertising. And all the promotional items that came out of the film, there are things or scenes that do not appear in the film. For example, many of the posters that show Fantastic Four are in a heavily ravaged and devastated city. And the tagline is, "Change is coming," simply implying some kind of action scene. However, such a scene does not happen at all in the actual movie until the final act. The posters also have the line from the studios that brought you X-Men Days of Future Past, which was infinitely better than this sorry excuse of a Marvel superhero movie. In different trailers of the film, there are several scenes that do not appear in the film. Sit down for this, alright? You might want to hear this. You might want to get this. The Thing jumping out of airplane. Sue crying for Johnny. Reed being supervised by the army. Reed having a romantic conversation with Sue. Maybe even have some character development. Ben playing baseball. The Thing being shot by the army. Reed smashing a stone pillar. The Thing about to hit Dr. Doom. They even, the producers of this film actually wanted to explore the romantic relationship between Sue Storm and Reed Richards. That never happened in the film. And also, it's a misleading title. Despite being called the Fantastic Four, the movie is not fantastic in any way. The first hour goes by slowly, making the movie feel longer than it actually is. It could actually be called, if you will, a fantastic bore. There are so many filler stories. For example, there are several subplots in the first and second acts, like Ben Grimm's rivalry with his older brother, Johnny's connection to being a street racer, being forgotten as soon as they're brought up. There's no cameo from the great Stan Lee. Thankfully, he declined to make a cameo in this piece of shit movie, because it's horrible. But I will say this. When Stan Lee did pass away 3 years later, Josh Trank actually regretted letting him down when he had to receive a personal letter from Lee asking him if he was okay. So, yeah. There were also some scenes that clearly show studio mandated reshoots, like Kate Mara, the actress who plays the Invisible Woman, having different hair color due to using a wig. as well as Miles Teller having facial hair in some scenes. Due to a large amount of meddling and production issues, many scenes that were included in the trailers were deleted in the final cut of the film. There were horrible and unfinished editing, which the Fantastic Four are creating their own base, was nothing more than an attempt to set up a planned sequel that was cancelled and removed due to flopping at the box office, and also the Razzies. And this movie also had a terrible release date. It released a few weeks after another Marvel movie, Ant-Man, and a week after Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Those two movies did a great job, and they did better, way better than this movie, far better, at the box office. And critics handled it much better. They turned the thing into a complete joke. The same point can be said regarding the other Fantastic Four members. You know, I can go on and on and on, but those are the many. So yeah, as I sit back and really think about this disaster of a film, it makes you really think about what to do and what not to do, how you should make a movie. Well, a couple years later, Disney bought Fantastic Four from Fox. They own the rights. And now there's going to be a new MCU Fantastic Four movie coming in the future. You know, it sucks for... You know, it sucks, you know, because Josh Trank has received a lot of... Josh Trank has received a lot of criticisms. And he also stated that he will never direct a superhero movie ever again. You know, because he fears that it'll hurt his reputation. And I feel so bad for this man. I feel so bad for this man. Thankfully, 3 years later, Michael B. Jordan will be playing another Marvel superhero. Well, not superhero, Marvel villain. Thankfully, Michael B. Jordan would be playing another Marvel character. Not a hero, but a villain, Killmonger in Black Panther, and he fucking killed it. He killed it as Killmonger. So yeah, that's all I have to say for Fant4stic. I don't even want to know what you thought about this movie, because I feel like I already know. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to listening to my review. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all of that great stuff. And I will see all of you lovely people really soon.